Right, on today's episode of the Mental Health Podcast, we are joined by George Hartley. How you doing, mate?
Not doing too badly. How are you?
I'm alright, mate. Do you want to just explain to the people who's watching who don't know who you are? Do you want to explain what you do?
I very much doubt anyone will know who I am. To be honest, like you probably don't know who I am.
You're not Robbie Knox, are you?
I'm not. No, and that's why I got in touch actually, because I've been in touch with Robbie Knox before, but yeah, I'm the co-host on Stuff and Nonsense, which is a pretty new podcast. We started in November, and yeah, we get we got 2 episodes a week. We just talk about random topics in every episode. We don't ever stick to I don't even know how to describe it. We talk like 30-40 minutes. We talk about just like a random topic. So we've talked about embarrassment. We talked about potatoes yesterday. That's coming out soon. Talked about like cereal. We've talked about like all sorts of things. And yeah, we had Robbie Knox on one of our episodes, and that's how I found out about this. So just, interested in trying something new because I've not been on somebody else's podcast before. So it's exciting.
Oh,
really exciting times. Yeah, no, it's great.
Your link for your Twitter and your channel will be down below anyway, so people
cheers.
can... You talk about potatoes. How the fuck did you make a conversation about potatoes?
I know, like we actually said that because we had the guests on for that one. There's a podcast called Now Worse. It's these 2 girls from Yorkshire who their podcast is kind of similar to ours, and that's why I got them on. And they were saying the same thing. It's like we've thought that since the start. We actually did an episode about shaving. I want to say like November or December, and there's a bit about 10 minutes in where I just go, why are we doing this? What have we got to talk about? And I felt the conversation drying up 10 minutes in, but still we ended up getting a 30-40 minute episode out of it. And we're growing very slowly. I know people that I know listen to it, but I don't know if there's a few people in the States who have been in touch saying like they listen to all the episodes as well. So that's like amazing. I've never done anything like that before. When people actually like acknowledge, because it's very rare that people message and go, I listened to this episode and it was really good. So you can't really gauge, apart from obviously looking at the stats, whether people are like really enjoying it or whether they're coming back like every episode. So that's really interesting.
I had a few people.
It's rewarding.
When I put the podcast on Twitter, when Robbie Knox shared it, I had you and about I think 2 or 3 others messaging me. I was like, why?
Oh, nice.
Why?
Yeah, no, because it's good that he retweeted it. Because he didn't retweet when we had the episode out with him, but we forgive him. We forgive him. Hopefully, maybe we'll get him back. Like maybe we'll get him back eventually. That'll be really good because it was a really good episode that we had.
Yeah. I love watching Happy Hour with him.
Oh yeah, I'm glad it's back.
Oh yeah,
I'm glad it's back. Yeah, it seems like it's been a while. I know that there were a few unfortunate things happened, and
Stevie and everything.
Yeah, a couple of months out, but yeah, it's good. That first episode they came back that had Robbie on it was like, it's like they were never gone, pretty much.
Yeah.
Like it's just straight back to exactly how it was. So yeah, that's one of the podcasts that got me into wanting to make another podcast, because I had a football one before, which I kind of didn't promote. I kind of just did it for my CV in some ways. It was very, very enjoyable. It was very enjoyable, and really liked making it. But yeah, that was something I did at uni, and I wanted to do something with, because Stuff and Nonsense is just me and my best mate, and it's the conversations that we would probably have like just by ourselves, where we just talk about random stuff, and like we've got to try and tone it down, because we've always just talked about like complete shit that wouldn't make sense to other people.
Yeah, that's me and my mate.
Yeah, we've got to kind of try and monitor it and be like, what can we say, or like if we say this, no one else will understand apart from us. So it's like a kind of controlled version of our normal conversations. I guess it's sort of like that. I don't know, but yeah, it's been great, and we're coming onto YouTube soon as well. So I don't know.
I'd love to come on to that.
Oh sure, yeah, no, we'll definitely get you
nonsense. It's my kind of thing.
I don't know. By the time this comes out, we may well be on YouTube, or it'll be close. But yeah, if you give us a follow, you'll find out for sure.
Yeah, there's a link in the description if you want to go follow George. to Twitter.
Cheers.
So yeah, you
Cheers.
messaged me saying that you suffered from depression, anxiety, and OCD. I
Yeah.
just want to go into. I've never really looked up OCD because I myself have never suffered from OCD. So obviously, obsessive-compulsive disorder. Anyone who don't know what OCD is, do you want to just explain what OCD is and everything?
Yeah, it's a strange one. I think it's kind of like such a broad term because a lot of time with OCD, the first thing you think of is people who maybe like wash their hands like after they touch anything, they will just wash
Like a
their hands like
germaphobe kind
persistently.
of thing.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
wasn't. It was with me. It was kind of like OCD with my thoughts, and I would kind of my brain would kind of trick itself into thinking that something was happening that wasn't happening, and it's essentially like the extreme version of what people would call getting worked up,
Yeah.
and I would back myself into a corner in my brain, and it's not something that I suffer from now, but it's something that is kind of elements of my mental health kind of history I can look back on and be like, that's some sort of strange OCD thing. And I think one of the things for me because sometimes you question like, have I had mental health problems or am I just kind of, have I just had low points?
Yeah.
But I think when you look back and you go, what on earth was going on in my head at that point? That's when you know that you weren't yourself and you know that there was something seriously wrong at that point. And with me, it was with my OCD experience was a weird one. It was basically I was in quite a new relationship. This is, I want to say, how long ago was it now? 2021, about four and a bit years ago, I think.
Okay.
And I started having this thing where every time, if I was out and about in public, I'd start convincing myself that I was like looking at other women, or like,
Right, yeah,
you know, when you just people watch when you're out and
Yeah.
about, I would like people watch, and then there'd be like people about, and then I'd be like, my head would be going, I just looked at that woman, I shouldn't do that because I'm in a relationship, and then it would like spiral out of control to the point where like my stomach was just in knots. And that's something that happened for like a month or so, and I've literally got no explanation for it. Like I look back on that and I'm like, what on earth was I thinking? Obviously, if you people watch, like looking around and you look at a woman doesn't mean that you're like attracted to a woman or you're gonna
you just
cheat
people.
your
Yeah, you just
partner.
people watching.
It's just people watching. But yeah, I somehow my brain was just like tricking myself into that, and yeah, it was really weird. That was my experience. I don't know, to be honest, whether that would classify as OCD, and I've never really come across anybody who's had anything similar. So I wouldn't know whether it was, but to me, I've heard experiences where, funnily enough, on an episode of Jack Mate's Happy Hour, where I think it was Alfie Indra talking about his OCD, where he had a thing where he had to know everything about his partner's like exes.
Right, yeah.
And I thought that's like a similar-ish kind of thing.
Yeah.
So that's why I kind of thought, yeah, maybe it is some form of OCD. I'm not sure.
I think OCD is such a broad spectrum of what symptoms or whatever you'd want to call it. So it could have been OCD, but then it also could have been like anxiety or any other.
Yeah.
It's such a broad thingy. There's just like thousands of different symptoms for OCD.
It would be interesting to come across somebody else who's had something similar. Like, don't know if I just looked online a little bit, maybe I would come across someone who's had something similar. And that obviously is very hard to explain to a partner, because if you're going to a partner like, I'm like looking at all these women and like I feel really bad about it, they're obviously going to think that you're like potentially like going to be unfaithful, or that they're not going to trust you.
Yeah.
And like deep down, you know that you're not actually doing it, but like
it's just trying to tell yourself that.
It's so weird. It is so weird, and yeah, that caused a lot of problems. But you know, got through that eventually. So yeah, I don't know. It's a difficult one, and it's not a story I've heard from anybody else before. So I don't know how many people know about it. Yeah, I don't know how many people know about that. To be fair, I think apart from like my mum, like, and my dad knew about it. Like, yeah, people didn't really know about it at the time.
Yeah, well, it's difficult things to talk about, isn't it? Because you
can't just feel like
you're a wimp and everything.
Oh, for sure.
Kind of thing.
I think for men, like it is. I've always been, because there's still, even though it's improved, there's still that huge stigma around like
There
male
is.
mental health and macho culture, and especially like my main passion has been football for most of my life,
Yeah, same
and it's
here.
so prevalent in that, where with footballers are starting to open up about mental health, and I've always made an effort to almost be too open about mental health, because I always want to make up for the people who like aren't talking about it by like
Yeah,
spreading awareness like even more, because it's such a huge thing.
it took
And
me a while to, how would you put it, like
yeah,
come out as mental health kind of thing, like depressed and everything. But
yeah,
once I did, I kind of realised, like, okay, this is me. If no one
yeah,
likes it, just fuck off.
yeah, exactly. Like
You know what I
it
mean?
doesn't have to define you as a person, like,
No, it's just trying to tell
which,
yourself that.
yeah, because it's
That's
at
the
times it
hardest
can,
part.
yeah, at times it can feel like it does define you as a person,
Mm.
because it controls like your entire day. Like if you're going through a bout of depression or anxiety, like there's almost like no release from it unless you're asleep.
Yeah.
Like it can be like literally
And
just
even then,
happening like
people have
non-stop.
insomnia and everything, like they can't
Yeah,
sleep. And so
yeah,
for some people,
exactly.
it's not a win-win. You know what I mean?
No, definitely not. And yeah, it's been like that with depression and anxiety. I've had like, it used to be social anxiety for me. Like when I was at school, I really struggled. I couldn't keep eye contact with anybody. I
Yeah.
was so quiet, especially like year 7 and year 8. Year 9, I became mates with Vito, who I host Stuff and Nonsense with. So he's like been like my mate for like longer than anybody else. Other people have kind of been in and out of
In and out. Yeah.
my life. But yeah, he's kind of stuck around for the long term. Apart from
Yeah.
that, yeah, I have really struggled with it. But I had like CBT, cognitive behavioural therapy on the NHS, and that's helped that. And you know, I think working in retail has helped my
Oh
confidence,
yeah. Yeah.
and podcasting's helped my confidence as well. So that's been really helpful for me. And now I want to go into like broadcasting and podcasting, like career wise, hopefully eventually. So but it does feel like sometimes if you are prone to mental health problems, you know, you can feel like, oh, I'm over this, but then it kind of like morphs into something else, and there's another problem. So if it's not anxiety, it's like depression, or it's like self-esteem problems,
Yeah.
or it's, you know, OCD. There's always like some level of it being there. There's always something to be anxious about if you like, I guess.
Oh yeah, there
Difficult.
is. Yeah. See, there needs to be more help because depends where you are in the country. It's a lot easier to get alcohol or word like drugs. It's a lot easier to
Yeah.
get them than to actually get help from the NHS.
Oh yeah,
So I think
100%.
that
Because
there needs to be so much more help
it is
from the government.
dissuading, because it can take somebody who's going through a mental health complaint, like it can take so much effort to go to the doctors,
Oh
and
yeah,
then if you get to the doctors and all they do is hand you like a phone number or a leaflet,
yeah. And then 6 months
it's
waiting list and everything.
it completely, it just, yeah, it puts you off. And then like I think it's worth doing, because it's worth getting a perspective, and they are obviously trained. But you know, I've been on antidepressants before for about, I want to say about a year and a half to 2 years, and yes, it stops you from feeling so depressed, but it also stops you from feeling really happy. It
Oh
just
yeah,
like
yeah,
it just numbs it for me. And it came to the point where it was causing more problems, in terms of it makes you more tired, and like it can
it
cause,
makes you
if you look at the
non-productive. Everything.
list of side effects, like there's so many side effects, and it got to the point where the side effects were just outweighing the good that it was doing. So
Yeah,
I want to say September sort of time, I came off them. And yeah, I've tried like little different kind of things here and there. And for me, I did go through a point when I was at college, maybe 5 or so years ago, where I was like, I'd put like a bit of vodka in like my water bottle, and it would be like 70-80% water and then just a bit of vodka, because I've never been someone who can drink like neat vodka. I couldn't do like a whole bottle. And I was just finding that it was making me a bit more confident.
Oh yeah.
And I think I would never say in any way, shape, or form I've been even slightly dependent on alcohol, like at all. But like I've been through phases, like when I came out of about 6 months or so before that, the kind of potential OCD thing that I went through with the looking at women thing. Before that, I went through a phase where I'd come out of my previous relationship and had met new people, met new friends and stuff, and we used to drink like so. This was the summer of 2016.
Oh mate, I think
we
was all drinking summer in 2016. That summer was amazing.
Yeah, and it was all like outdoors. Like we weren't going to like pubs or like bars or anything or clubs. We were just going underneath like trees.
Yeah,
I was I was like slightly older. I think I was 18 or 19 at the time.
I would have been 16 then.
Yeah, that's what I mean, because some of them were like 17, and I was kind of when I was about 19, I felt like I was about 16 or 17.
Oh yeah.
And because I was kind of at college, like a year late at college, so I knew like younger people. And yeah, during that summer, like I was very confident because I was drinking so much, and it got to the point where I'd have 2 or 3 days of not going out drinking, and I like hallucinated like once or twice, which is like, it was quite frightening. Like it was really weird, but I kind of came out of that phase, as I said, when I got into another relationship and got engaged eventually and got a place with that partner. And that came to an end like over a year ago now. And now I'm in a really nice new relationship as well. Like, it's going really, really well. Very difficult with the lockdowns and stuff. Like it's not been remotely normal the entire time, but like it couldn't really have gone better so far. So like now I think I'm in a space where I feel like I'm doing everything I can to deal with my mental health. Like I think, because there are ways you can go down. I think it's important to look at the long term, because obviously stuff like consuming alcohol, maybe smoking weed, stuff like that, or doing like kind of harder drugs, any of that kind of thing. In the short term, it might feel like it's making things better, but what you've got to do is lay foundations to make sure that like your general mental health is better, and improve it from like the bottom upwards. So that's why I started like meditating over the first lockdown, which is something that I'd always been like on my mind, but I'd been like, oh no, my routine is like all over the place, I'll never be able to fit it in. But just fitting it in for like 5 minutes, it doesn't even have to be every day, and just having that space of time where like you're not thinking about stuff, because like the UK especially, and currently obviously there's like a lot of people dying every day, like it's insane. It is very difficult, and there's a lot of like rushing thoughts, and I think the UK is a very stressful country as it is. Like you go to somewhere, like I've been to like Copenhagen before in Denmark, and it's so calm, like, and no one seems stressed. And you come back here, everyone's rushing about everywhere, everyone's like, it's so, there's like so much, so sort of congested. It's just a very stressful country to live in, the UK.
I was speaking to Robbie Knox about that, talking about when he lived in Canada, and I said, well, when I went to Kenya, obviously that's a really like a poor country, but you'll never see someone who is not smiling, even though they live in like tin shacks.
No, that's what I mean. In the Western world, with the money that's available in this country, you're drawn towards these external, short-term sources of happiness. So happiness comes, people think happiness is going to be like a new car or a holiday, or even like, it sounds mad, but even like having like a couple of biscuits. Like you have a cup of tea and have a biscuit, you might be like, oh, I really fancy a biscuit, but then 10 seconds later, that's gone, and you're back to how you were before.
Yeah.
It's like, it's kind of like the lowest version of like a high. Like the way that British culture is at the minute is to chase these kind of highs rather than just laying foundations so that everything's always happy. Like, try and get happiness from things that are like slightly more permanent, rather
Going for
than
walks. Everything.
literally like I go for my back. I'm having trouble with my back at the minute, so I rested yesterday. But I'm going to try and go out for a walk later. And I have a thing where, like, I think I know my mum and my partner probably find it really weird, like the way they do things like this. But I have like a list on my phone of like birds that I see, and then like if I see like a different like
keeps your
species
mind,
of bird,
doesn't it? Keeps your mind
yeah,
occupied when you're everything. So.
And I don't care, like, yeah, my partner will call me like a hippie, like jokingly and stuff, because I've meditated and stuff, and I like light candles and things occasionally. But like, I just think that might not work for everybody, but whatever makes you feel better, like, just do it. And like, people think that like self-care and like self-love and stuff are like maybe a bit selfish or a bit like wishy-washy, kind of like hippie type thing. But at the end of the day, like,
one of the most important things.
You are the most important person in your life. Like, nobody else is. Like, your partner isn't, your parents aren't, your kids. Like, it's you, because you're the person who's that you're there for your whole life.
Yeah, because
like,
if you're not happy, no one around you is going to be happy.
That's what I mean. And they always say, I saw Russell Brand, I think, quite recently saying, like, someone asked him, I think it was on YouTube, how he like picks himself up when he's going through like a low point. And he said that to like do something nice for somebody else, like, really helps him feel better.
Yeah.
And it definitely does. Like, 100% does. I feel like if you're a nice person to other people,
sorry, if you know.
Oh, no worries. Yeah, so I just think it's about like realizing that things aren't always permanent and not relying on stuff like a new car, new holiday, you know, a night out, not relying on these short-term things or like material things for happiness. And
I don't think people realise that like the most simplest things have a better effect than
100%.
things like going out, clubbing. Yeah, obviously it's going to be great, but I guarantee a simple walk through a park or through about wildlife like lakes and everything.
100%.
That'll probably give you more of a buzz than
I think so. And that's the thing, that's not going anywhere. Like, you can access that whenever you like.
Oh yeah.
Like, there's things like that. Like, yeah, you can always go out for a walk. You can always there's things like that you can always do.
That's what people now realise with lockdown.
Oh, definitely.
How beneficial.
Yeah, because I'd like when I was a kid, I used to like, me and my brother and my dad used to like bird watching and stuff, or like we'd go for walks, because I'm lucky enough to have like a massive like load of fields right at the end of my road.
Yeah, I live in the countryside. So.
It's to have access to that is incredible. Like, not obviously if you live in like a high-rise block of flats in like London, it's more difficult, and you know, you feel sorry for people like that during a time like now. But yeah, for me, somewhere like that is just, and also with meditating, just to escape from that kind of constant barrage of like pressure that you get in modern society, just to escape for like 5 or 10 minutes, I think it's really, really important, and just focus on yourself, 100%. Because people don't focus on themselves enough. Like, the number of people that I know who are constantly in fear of letting people down. And it's like, sometimes you've got to be like, do you know what? I'm not up to doing whatever. I'm going to take this time for myself. I'll stay at home, and I will, you know, or people will be like wary to take a day off sick at work. I'm like, well, if you're actually not up to going to work, don't go to work. Like, they can, they can deal without you. You need to be able to focus on yourself.
I think employers need to, I think, have more like an actual understanding of mental health. I think they need to do like an exam kind of thing.
Yeah.
So they understand mental health, and you understand people do need. They're not skiving. People do genuinely need like an hour, like an hour extra on their lunch or something.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Like or even just a day off work. They need it.
Like, I'm quite lucky. Like, I've worked in the same shop. Like, I work for like a fairly big company. It's in retail, and they're a very forward-thinking company in terms of they're all about like inclusion, and they have like mental health policies in place and things like that. And I've had to call up and be like, you know what, I can't leave my house today. Like, it's not happening. And my manager's always been like amazing about it. And you know, there'd be times when I started on my antidepressants where I'd like go into work and I would just like go upstairs and just like lie down on the floor for like 10 minutes because I was like, oh, right, I can't do this yet. Like, I need to find some way of like sorting it out. But I think that's very important that like at employer level, like at the top of companies, realize that it is as serious as physical health.
Yeah, I think
Like,
it's more important than physical health. To be honest.
to be honest, yeah, because
Yeah,
mental health can impact physical health
yeah,
as
it's
well.
gonna. Yeah,
Like, if you have a lot of anxiety, like I know when I go through anxiety, my stomach is just clenched, like
yeah.
tight. Like, it could be for like a week, and it's like non-relenting. Like, I don't feel like I can eat anything. And yeah, mental health becomes physical health
Oh
in
yeah.
many ways. Pretty much, yeah, I'd say so.
Because if you have like agoraphobia, like where you
Yeah.
don't want to leave the house, everything, that's obviously going to lead to health problems and everything. So I'd say mental health is probably the most important thing in the human
Probably right.
anatomy.
I think so. Yeah, definitely. And that can be really difficult. Like, you do feel very weighed down. I remember calling in sick work once because I was just going through like a pretty depressive phase, and for some reason I had to go out and get something from town that day, and it just feels like you're being like pulled into the floor.
Yeah,
Like, I felt like really heavy, and it's such a. I don't think it's one of those things like um that you can describe. Like, somebody has to go through it to understand how it feels. Anyways, it's like, and obviously I've seen you've got a tattoo as well. I've got a fair few,
yeah, I've
and
got 4.
people, yeah, people always say to me like, oh, how does it feel? Does it hurt to get a tattoo? And you can't describe how it feels. Like, you just, the person has to like get a tattoo,
Yeah,
otherwise
because
they'll never know
yeah,
how it feels. Because
if I
yeah, I don't know,
say
I don't know how to describe it at all.
yeah, because
Like,
if I say don't hurt and then you go and get a tattoo and it hurt,
yeah,
then it's like that ain't my fault.
exactly.
That's
Yeah,
just
exactly.
how I witnessed my tattoo. Because yeah,
Literally.
I've got a tattoo from my granddad. I got a tattoo that says life with the semicolon, which is the mental health logo.
Yeah.
I've then got an eagle and a wolf, and then an M&M
Nice.
logo on my leg.
Pretty good.
And
Yeah, no, I've
I'm
got a
getting
fair
the Lincoln Park soon.
Oh, cool.
On the
Yeah, I'm
ribs.
excited to kind of maybe get a few more once they reopen. Like, I've got most of one arm, the other arm, like the back of my neck and the sides of my neck.
Yeah.
Not the front of my neck yet. I'm like, not, just in case I get a job as like a BBC like weather presenter, and I can be like front on, and no one will ever know that I have tattoos. But yeah, I'm thinking about getting one for like my dad. My dad passed away a couple of
Yeah.
years ago now, so stuff like that. Yeah, I don't. Yeah, I want to get some like more meaningful tattoos, because some of the ones I've got have just literally been. Most of the ones I've got is just because I like the design. Like, or
Yeah.
people say like, oh, what does that mean? I do have one which is kind of relevant. I don't know what angle I can show it at, but it's like hang on, it's really annoying. Anyone who's listening on Spotify will be like, what's going on? But
Oh
it's
yeah,
like
yeah. I get it
a
now. Yeah.
brain. Yeah, it's like a brain as a puppet being controlled
Yeah.
by a hand, and I link that to mental health, and that you're not in full control of your brain, or like most people in modern society aren't in full control of their brain, because it sounds, again, really weird to some people probably, but like, society completely molds who you are. And you know, you can be in a situation where you're like, oh, I'm not going to check my phone today, but then 10 seconds later you check your phone, and
Yeah,
it's
your
like,
brain. Yeah,
even little
you
things like
have to
that.
come and check it and everything. Yeah, you have to go on
Yeah,
Facebook.
even
There's
little things like that.
yeah,
Yeah, like, we're like,
because your
I don't
brain's
know.
just so used to social media. I
Yeah.
think social media is probably one of the biggest causes
Oh,
of
100%.
mental health.
It's a difficult thing. Like, I've cut down social media massively, where like I don't have Facebook on my phone anymore. I don't actually have the Twitter app on my phone, because it makes it a little bit harder to go on Twitter. I do sometimes have to use it on my phone. I just go through like my browser.
Yeah,
But the thing is, like, if I didn't have my podcast to promote, I basically would try and stay off social media as
Yeah,
far
I
as possible.
do.
But it's like,
I do Friday night to Sunday night. That's it. No computer, even
oh, nice.
no PlayStation, and just Netflix at night before I go to bed. But apart from that, I just
Yeah.
want to stay away from technology for a
This is
few days.
interesting though. Like, I guess I'll ask you a question, like, because people say stuff like that. Because some people that is so like alien. What if you're not using like social media and stuff? What are you actually doing in that time?
I go for walks, go downstairs, spend time with my family, play with my dog.
Yeah,
Even
nice.
even in the garden, just kicking the ball against the wall or a fence for like half an hour. Just
Yeah.
something better than just sitting around.
Yeah, because like the amount of time you can waste just like scrolling through TikTok for like an hour, and like I
Yeah.
have the little timer things on my phone where it only allows me to have a certain amount of time. But
Oh
if
yeah.
you do that, you can just turn it off. Like it's so easy to
Yeah.
just like go through that and keep going. So like, but that's what I mean. Like phones are made like, especially I've got an iPhone 8. You pick it up, the screen comes on like instantly, and they're designed so that you are basically like unable to detach yourself from them.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's very good from Apple's point of view, like from a company point of view, but like
They're raking
it's
in millions there.
yeah, and don't get me wrong, social media like can be absolutely amazing.
Oh, yeah,
People
you can
say
meet so many people.
people say how Twitter is toxic and stuff, but like it's only toxic. You can change it. You can alter your like you can modify the way that you use Twitter by the people that you follow, and
Yeah.
like you can cut out stuff that's toxic, and you can use it in a really like helpful way. Like I just follow like football writers, other podcasters, and then I follow like the Dalai Lama or like people who are into like self
Yeah.
improvement, self
Yeah.
development. And there are like YouTubers who are like really easy to watch, who are great with like self development, who have really helped me kind of with like picking up good habits and things. Guys like Nathaniel Drew, Matt Diavella, Better Ideas. I think his name's Joey Schweitzer. Like these YouTubers are like so easy to watch,
Yeah.
and the videos aren't serious, and it doesn't feel like it's difficult. And they just give you like these ways where you can kind of like instill these little habits into your life just to kind of improve your mental state and everything like that.
Yeah.
It's really good.
I think Instagram. I think from a woman's point of view, I think Instagram needs to be changed because this is full of women with perfect bodies and all these Photoshop and filters on and understand like even if a woman wants to look like that, that's still not going to make you happy. And plus, it's actually unhealthy to look like
100%.
a model. I think the
Yeah,
human body
and it's
should
all
not be
no.
like that. But if you
That's
want to
what
be like
social
that, then
media is
go
like
ahead.
that.
But
Yeah,
it ain't going to
exactly.
make
And
you
so
happier.
no, social media is like that where it's about chasing. Like you're on TikTok, oh, you see something funny, and then it's over. It draws you in, and then you keep scrolling, and it's about chasing these like if you take a step back and think like, what are you actually looking for when you go on TikTok? Like it's just mindless like scrolling through stuff. It doesn't
Yeah.
make it any easier to stop when you see it like that. But like I would definitely not have it on my phone if I wasn't making TikToks for the podcast. Like I wouldn't have like I don't have a personal TikTok account. I just have one for the podcast.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't touch it if I didn't have the podcast because you waste. That's like the ultimate. Like TikTok are doing so well with the way that they work in the algorithm. It's like it's perfect, pretty much.
Short
Dangerously.
videos, everything, isn't it?
Yeah.
That's becoming the new YouTube algorithm.
It is, isn't it? Yeah.
Right, YouTube Shorts.
Yeah, I've spotted a few of those.
Yeah.
Will come up. It's difficult.
Yeah, it's weird.
Make it hard for you.
I think mental health is such a broad. It's like never ending. There's just so many different variants, or whatever you want to call it.
It's kind of about controlling it rather than trying to get rid of it completely and stop. And
you just got to learn to live with it.
Yeah, live with it and control it and keep it as at a minimum kind of level if you possibly can.
Yeah.
It's not going to go away necessarily, but I think we live in like a very stressful country, And
especially with COVID and everything.
yeah, there's a lot of pressure on everyone to be successful, and everything is about like not being about like being perfect. And social media, not even just social media, it's been going for ages. Even like TV adverts and TV programs and films.
Yeah.
There's this idea of like a perfect person. It's predominantly the perfect woman, but also the perfect man as well. And not every guy has a six pack and huge biceps, and is like classically good looking. And not every woman is like the stereotype of what a woman is in like on Instagram and that kind of thing. And it's just, yeah, it is very, very damaging. And I get why it's happened and I get how it's happened, but people don't really realize how damaging that is. And people will wake up in the morning, reach for their phone, get Instagram, and then these ideas are in their head. Like, it's the first thing that happens to them every morning. They're like, oh, let's scroll through Instagram. And they're having these ideas put into their head, like, is the first thing once they wake up. And it's like such a horrible way to start the day, like by doing that kind of thing. Like, it's just not helpful at all.
I can't really see it changing. No, I don't think.
No, I don't think it will.
Social media will never change to be more healthier for people. But I think there is stuff people can do to try and make it more healthier. It's like football touch on Twitter. That's just a toxic community, and sometimes you can't even leave it because if you follow someone who you really love watching, and even if you comment on their post saying great video or whatever, you're just going to get replied back with hate, and then you don't want to stop commenting on their video because you want to show them support, but then you're going to get hate. It's like a never-ending.
It is very difficult. We've obviously had all the issues with like racist stuff being sent to footballers recently as well from football Twitter, and it's like you can't identify who the people are behind the profiles, and that makes it even worse. It's like
you say you love football, but then you're ruining it.
Yeah, literally, it's such a huge issue at the minute, and I don't really know what the answer is. Twitter, I think there's talks of like Twitter, you need some sort of identification to sign up for a Twitter account, and I think that would work. It might work. It's difficult. It has its drawbacks, but it might work. Who knows? We'll see what happens.
Hopefully. I just want... My ideal world is just everyone's just... It's impossible to do, but everyone's such a friendlier community around the world.
No.
Obviously, you're still going to get, like... Because if the world had no dickheads, then it would be a boring world, wouldn't it? But
yeah, true.
There needs to be at least one.
Yeah, we need a bit of Boris or Donald Trump every now and again, just to like make people angry and rile people up.
Yeah, because then otherwise the world would be boring. But there needs to be more community. I think they should do like community-based projects. Like if you live in a village and there's like a community like fun fair or something, I think the old village should be involved and bring the community together.
Like
like back in like the 70s and 80s.
That's what I mean. Drawing elements from like the 70s, 80s, even like the 90s before social media came about. And imagine if we could go back to the 90s and the early 2000s and like
raving Oasis.
Yeah, bring through social media, but in a way that can only be helpful. And I don't think that's possible because there's always going to be people who abuse like social media. But the way that the Instagram specifically, I want to say, is used now is so like unhealthy for people to consume the stuff that's on there. I've barely used my personal account now. Again, it's just my podcast account pretty much that I go on. So I don't get so much of that on there. But yeah, it's difficult time. And I do think people of our generation and the next generation have it difficult in terms of the pressures that they have piled on them from society.
Yeah, I think the generation really after us, it's going to be 100 times worse and harder than what it is for us. And I genuinely don't think a lot of people are going to manage in the next generation to survive happily and everything. I don't think it's going to be possible.
I think the mental health kind of crisis is going to get worse unless things change in terms of the way that it's
Yes.
that mental health is kind of treated by the government. If that doesn't change, things are only going to get worse. It's not just at government level. It's at all sorts of level. Things need to change.
Oh, schools need to change. Schools need to reevaluate how they deal with like bullies or whatever. Because
Yeah,
all the
definitely.
schools I've been to, they've been absolutely shocking.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah,
they don't
yeah.
help or anything. They're just
No, they don't. The whole education system, I guess, is we could talk about that for another whole episode probably.
yeah.
Like how it's like
We should do that,
not.
to be honest.
Yeah, definitely. It's just
Do
not.
that.
It's not geared up for like. It's not. It hasn't been modernized in the slightest.
It's the same
Like.
as the 1800s. You sit in a row, onto a desk,
Mhm.
sometimes. The same as 1800s. Victorian
Yeah,
times. And that. It's not
and like
changed.
yeah, nothing. You don't get taught anywhere near enough about like finance. Like me personally had like virtually. I did go to a Catholic school, but I had like one lesson on sex education. Like
It's Catholic school, isn't it?
you don't know anything about it by the time you leave school. You've not learned anything like proper about it really, and you've got to
Yeah.
kind of like go into it yourself and kind of be like, don't know what's going on. And yeah, nothing about mental health. And I think since I left secondary school in 2013, and I think since then mental health awareness has improved a lot.
It has, yeah.
I still very much doubt they talk much about mental health at my high school.
Yeah,
Like
I
I
left
doubt it.
in 2016,
Yeah.
and I can't remember a single lesson. In college, we learned about it, but that was just for
Yeah.
about an hour or two.
Yeah.
But to us, I think colleges are much more capable with looking after people mental health, because we had a school counsellor or a college counsellor at college, and they treat you like adults. So if you are
Yeah, they
bullying,
do.
they'll just swear at you and just kick you off campus.
Yeah. No, I had that at college as well because I felt like at school I just kind of felt like there weren't really many people who I could relate to or who I kind of wanted to be friends with.
Yeah.
Like it wasn't even that I really wanted to be friends with people because I just didn't really get on with many people because I was quiet. There was like a bit of a bullying culture, like elements of the school. Despite you think a Catholic school, they'd be like, kind of, it proves that you don't have, perfectly like well brought up. Not that people who aren't religious aren't well brought up, but like you think that people who are from a religious background, like I'm not from a religious
No, I'm
background
not.
personally, but like you'd think that they would be well brought up probably if they come from a Catholic background. But yeah, there's still a lot of bullies.
Oh
Like I
yeah.
was still mainly verbally like bullied. I was from like most of the time I was at school, even when I had a bit of a kind of social life. I think that's such a horrible thing, and I think that that probably laid some of the foundations for me having mental health problems, like being bullied. It probably was like I don't really know like what set me up to start suffering from anxiety and depression and things. I don't know.
I'm the same. I don't know how I
No,
got
like
into
I had
this.
like my childhood was like very, very, very easy. I don't know
Yeah.
whether in some ways maybe that the fact that my childhood was so easy and so laid back, anything that wasn't like my home life, anything that wasn't so easy, kind of made me like a little bit anxious, a little bit frightened. So potentially it was that. I don't really know. Probably never find out.
Yeah. Well, going back to the school topic, obviously we'll probably do another podcast about this because you could talk about this for like hours. But
Yeah.
go back to the bullies thing. You, it gets to the point where if you're getting bullied and the teacher always say, "Oh, come speak to the teacher and we'll sort it." As soon as you go
Yeah.
to the teacher, the bully then knows it's affecting you, and then
Yeah.
they'll carry on doing it. And
Yeah.
then soon you're just gonna flip out and whack them,
Yeah.
and then you're the problem because you whacked them,
Yeah.
even
That
though
was my
they're just
issue.
yeah,
I think
yeah.
one of my issues was that
I got kicked out of school for 2 days.
I was the opposite. Like I think one of my issues was that because I was very quiet, I just like almost let it happen. And I
Yeah,
think it's very difficult to know like which way to go. Do you retaliate? Because then potentially you piss them off even more and they're going to bully you more. Or if you don't retaliate, you're then seen as being even weaker, so
Yeah.
they keep going. It's like there's not a way out of it, really.
I think
You just
after a
kind of-
while, I think everyone will. Well, 99% of the people will retaliate, either by.
Yeah, I probably would have been driven to it. As I said, it wasn't. It was mainly verbal, and it wasn't like massively serious. Like,
Yeah,
obviously,
it's just annoying, isn't it? Even though
yeah,
sometimes it don't even affect you like mentally. It's like, yeah, okay, then you called me, whatever.
yeah,
But it gets, well, mate, it's annoying.
yeah. It is very irritating when it's kind of like you're just trying to go about your day like at school,
Yeah, it's like a
and it just
daily
gets in the
occurrence.
way, and you're like, well, I kind of just want to be left alone, like,
Yeah,
and
do
yeah,
my maths.
and to be honest, the majority of the people who are bullies at school probably turn out to be decent people. It's
Oh yeah,
you know,
you have to
it
be
doesn't.
strong to
Yeah,
probably
I
come
don't
out of
know.
school a happy person. To be honest, I think school's a horrible,
Yeah,
horrible place.
I know
You
people
have
who
to
have
be very
enjoyed it, but
strong to get
like,
through that.
yeah, I think if you are a very strong, like confident person and you have a good friendship group, it's probably a lot better. Like I know my brother was like that. My brother's always been very confident, and he
Yeah,
was like really really popular in his year at school, and I was the total opposite. And he enjoyed school, and I hated school. So I mean, it's like that. It does depend on things like that. But yeah, it is a very daunting place, especially when you've been at primary school and it's quite small. And then you go into a secondary school, like
yeah,
everything just looks so massive
like
for you.
numerous
Like,
schools into one high
yeah,
school.
everything looks huge when
So
you start in year
luckily for
7.
me, I grew up in Mablethorpe near Skegness,
All right.
and I went primary school there, so I knew everyone in primary school, and then I went to the high school Tennyson, which was also in Mablethorpe. All my mates from Mablethorpe Primary School went to
Yeah.
there, and then people from the surrounding areas. I knew some of them through football, so it was easier for me to
Yeah.
go over there. But then I moved back to where I was born, Leicester. And I joined the high school there, and I didn't know anyone.
Yeah, I can imagine that's difficult.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, it was the same for me because I was at a Catholic primary school in the town where I'm from.
Yeah.
And then went to, like, virtually everybody went to the same high school because it was the closest Catholic high school.
Yeah.
As I said, not from a religious background, but a lot of them were, so it was important for them. My parents just thought it would be, I'd be treated well in a religious sort of school. It wasn't the case, but it's not their fault. I get exactly where they were coming from with it. And yeah, so I didn't know a lot of people there, but I think it seemed that everybody was very much like offering their own friendship group straight away, and I was just kind of like, what's going on? And because I was so quiet, I didn't kind of end up getting that until maybe like year 9, year 10. As I said, met Vito, or like became friends with Vito. And I know full well that like before me and Vito became friends, like he thought I was like very quiet and weird, and I just remember him being like a troublemaker, like absolute nuisance. And I didn't really have like the most amazing opinion of him, but like, yeah, you friends just turn up kind of, I guess, at random times, and then some will stick, and then some come and go, and it's like, it's weird society, social life, weird.
It is a weird place.
Yeah,
definitely. We'll have to do another podcast for the school thing because I think there's a lot of
sure. Yeah. No, I think that would be good.
I think that'd be
We'll
amazing.
definitely
Yeah.
Nice one. Cool.
Have you got any questions you wanna ask me before we end this?
I can't think of anything specific.
You can't think of anything?
No, not really. But I'll probably, if we do another episode, I'll probably have like a load of questions.
Yeah, just write some down, mate. We'll probably plan it for a few weeks down the line or something.
Yeah, no, that sounds perfect.
Because I've got to plan another 2 podcasts this week and next.
Yeah.
And then I'll message you about the school one, and then I'll come onto your podcast.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Talk about nonsense.
Yeah, exactly. No, that sounds really good.
Yeah, sounds sick, mate.
Oh, nice.
Well, I'm just gonna end.
We'll sort something out.
Yeah, I'm just gonna stop the recording.
Yeah, sure.
How do you stop the recording?
I can never remember.
Stop recording.